Welcome back to 8 Cubes. I'm KMBest. He's Lamby series. We are once again identical. Both of us are wearing glasses. Now, we're going to start with Fin Fang Foom, who's the card coming out on Tuesday. Fin Fang Foom, a 7/12 with an on-reveal ability that gives Fin Fang Foom the power of the opposing front row cards at the location he's played at. As a baseline, I look at this card and I think, this is a significantly improved version of the Infinite for general use. That is the baseline I see here. The Infinite is a 6/20 that can sometimes be shortcut by specifically War Machine, but generally, if you want to play the card, the hoop you need to jump through is skipping your turn 5. That's effectively 11 energy. This guy, the hoop you need to jump through is having one more energy. That's a much more easily jumpable hoop. And they've been putting a lot of power in cards that help you jump that hoop. 3/6 Luna Snow, 3/5 Electro, 3/6 Wave.
Chamber.
All of those cards let you jump that hoop in interesting ways. And I think that that's a really interesting dynamic for a card like this to have, because this is obviously a card that is going to be good in the space that it goes in, but similarly, there's not really a way to cheat the requirements the way the Infinite has. There's no 5/9 or whatever that isn't also a ramp card. You know what I mean? Like, ramp isn't so much cheating the requirements as it's the thing you do. So getting the Infinite without having to go through the condition, there's a way to do that. There's no way to get this guy without having him be 7. There's just a lot of good ways to make sure that you have 7.
Yeah, so my first thought is I want this in ramp. Could this replace the Infinite? Maybe you run both, maybe you replace it. Because the thing about this card is that in a ramp deck, if you're not ramping anyway, you're not gonna win anyway. So like the whole 7 mana thing is, to me, is like negligible in ramp. Because like if you're on en route to winning, you would have probably ramped. So then the 7 is a 6 is a 7, the 7 is a 6, it doesn't matter. And 7/12, I think at baseline, if you play in any location in the like final turn of the game with your opponent's cards, at minimum 7/20 is not even a big ask, you know. It's probably possibly 7/20 something plus 25, maybe even. Like it's not a difficult ask, you know. So I feel like this in a ramp deck, if you're not ramping anyway, you're losing. So might as well, when you ramp, get the bigger guy out on average, this is probably, in my opinion, on average going to be bigger than Infinite if you play it on like the final turn. So I think this card could replace Infinite. Maybe it's good enough to run both. I don't know about the slots, but like I think this could replace Infinite at minimum.
I think the interesting question for me with this guy is this guy big enough that ramp has some life in this metagame? Because I think that largely the issues ramp has are pretty specifically just Shou Lao related. Like, they're all just like,
Yeah,
well, if
Shou
my
Lao's
opponent makes a 22 power Scarlet Spider, I probably lose to that. And I don't think this guy fixes that. And what bugs me about it, because I got to tell you, I actually really like the ramp deck. I think it's a cool deck. I like playing it. It's one of the few decks in Marvel Snap where it's just like a real turn your brain off, enjoy the game kind of thing. And I think that it being worse is something I don't like about the game. But a lot of what makes it worse is that what made the ramp deck good was that it had a good mixture of relevant tech and good options. And that included Enchantress, which is now totally irrelevant. Basically, nobody plays anything that can be hit by that card. And so you see them changing stuff up. They're playing like Professor X and things of that nature. And
Man,
it's
you
like,
could be
I
playing
get
Dragon
it.
Lord, but anyway.
Right. I've tried that too. Don't get me wrong. But it's like you see like Professor X, you see like Red Guardian. You see these cards that don't fit too well with what the deck is doing because it knows it needs to adapt, but it just doesn't necessarily have the tools to adapt. And so it ends up being this deck that I think largely gets outpointed by the Shou Lao decks. And I don't think this guy fixes that. He might. Maybe I'm underrating how big he is. He might.
Okay, so here's my pitch. You could play a slightly different version, right? Because, I mean, I'm still on this Dragon Lord train, whereby since we know that Enchantress is kind of like meh right now, you go like full big deck energy, right? You go like Dragon Lord, Infinite, and this guy.
And then you
Like,
just play
your
Hela.
top end is just way bigger. So
Yeah,
it's
but
like
then you
multiple
just play
20
Hela.
point stuff.
You play Hela.
Yeah, 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 but like
That's what we're
this one lets
talking
you
about
run
here. You're
some
like,
amount of
oh,
like
let me
disruption
make
tech
my
or
deck
whatever.
bigger. Let me make my deck bigger. Let's cheat more cards and just play Hela. That's what this card is. That's what this card wants you to do. Once you play Hela,
That's not wrong.
like that's it. Like we're gonna figure out some way to play like a ramp hybridized version of Hela. We're gonna play a ramp hybridized version of Hela, and we're gonna lose to the people that are playing Stardust. That's what we're gonna do with this card. That's what it is. And we're going to have the ramp package in there so that when they play Stardust, we can still play a big guy pretty reasonably. That's it.
Yep.
Corvus Glaive will let me play this guy. Maybe I'll be able to beat him. That's just this is where this is going to go, isn't it? Lin Lie is fine. I think I'm going to use him to illustrate a point in a couple of topics, but I was actually kind of impressed with him. Like, I don't think he's good. I don't think he goes in any decks that are tier 1, and that's usually like a pretty good definition of good. But I was a little bit impressed, at least, with like the people that were doing like Frigga stuff with him and Bastion stuff with him. And it was like, that's really not as bad as you might think that it is. It's just in a weird space right now, but I can see metagames where that kind of stuff makes sense. And I didn't expect that. I expect him to be like, maybe he goes in the Iris deck. And if he doesn't go in the Iris deck, which I think at this point it's pretty clear that he doesn't, then he probably doesn't have any homes anywhere. I didn't see the copy hook coming. And I think the copy hook is actually... This card is more Dakin than it is like Craven
Bounce,
or whatever.
Right, yeah.
Like this card is like a Dakin card, right? And it might not be the perfect metagame for it right now. Sometimes it's the good metagame for being a Dakin deck, sometimes it's not. But that does exist. And it is worth mentioning in the card's profile because when you talk about why you're going to pick up this card, I think overwhelmingly the reason you're going to get this card is to do like a Dakin type of thing with it.
This card is like the thing about this card is like you said, right? It's not perfect for the meta right now, but I feel like it's close. Like the power level is like close. Just that it's not as good as like Shou Lao stuff, right? I really think this card is something that you just really need to like keep in mind very strongly as priority 1 or 2 the moment like Shou Lao stuff goes away, because the power output is significant, and then like you said, you can do deck and stuff with it. Means it has natural synergy with some other stuff as well, So I feel like maybe not now, but this is one of those cards whereby when I look at it, I feel like in the state of the current meta game, it just needs to Shou Lao just needs to be like maybe tuned down a little bit, and then maybe you'll see more of this kind of stuff because it's not that bad, It's actually pretty consistent amount of points. It's just that there's like another deck that does it better with less effort, which is the Shou Lao stuff.
Yeah, and the other issue that it has is that if you're playing a Lin Lie copy deck, you are basically never able to fit tech in there. And
exactly.
So you're kind of like a small combo deck. It's a little bounce-ish where it's like,
I was gonna say like
playing,
it's bounce.
Yeah.
Right?
Like I'm playing the smallest combo deck on earth, and then you play against a real combo deck, and you're like, oh, I'm dead. Every single time. Like you just absolutely eat it. Or at least the Shou Lao decks get to cope those matchups, right? At least the Shou Lao decks get to be like, well, I'm making 40 points. There's 40 points in one lane, there's 32 in another. I can cope staying against Living Tribunal or whatever. I might actually still win that. But you as like the sort of Lin Lie deck will never win that.
Yeah.
I have generally enjoyed Dragon Lord. But I do think that it might be a little unfair to him to review him before his like Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon comes out, right? Like if this is our Dragon Master Knight, he doesn't have the other half of his fusion right now. So I want you guys to take this with a grain of salt because we are reviewing him before big ol' Fin Fang drops, and he is pretty obviously a card that would make sense if you're doing Fin Fang things, or at least would make more sense than he does now. I played some Dragon Lord with like the versions of the ramp deck that are Dragon Lord heavy. I do like that I don't have to run Enchantress anymore. Like I think it's a nice little thing. I've enjoyed what the deck does, but the problem is it also made me run things like Giganto and Red Hulk, and I don't like running those. I don't like putting those cards in my deck to justify Dragon Lord. It feels like the card quality of my deck went down, and so it felt a lot more like a side grade than a meaningful upgrade. I can totally see a world where I like the one real piece of tech in the deck is my Cosmic Ghost Rider, and I'm just really hoping that all the Fin Fang decks totally blow they're not the Fin Fang decks, the other dragons, sorry, the Shou Lao decks totally blow their positioning, and I just get the Cosmic Ghost Rider stuff. But Largely, I think that matchup is pretty bad for us, and I don't think Dragon Lord fixes it very easily if they're actually comboing on you. So I'm not sure this guy has a home in the metagame, but again, he's got Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon coming out, so we'll see if that interaction is a big enough piece of his power to make him more worth it.
Yeah, I'm like happy and sad at the same time. Like happy, his like counterpart like is coming out real soon, and then also a bit sad because like it's as of right now, it's not enough power to beat the Shou Lao stuff. I'm pretty sure, but like, so I have a very big like. I'm a very big fan of ramp, and I'm a very big fan of ramping into like big amounts of points, cause like numbers win games in Marvel Snap, right? That's like the core basis of Marvel Snap. So like the problem is like the points you're dropping out from playing your fair big cards right now is less than combo, and it's also less than Shou Lao. So like it's a bit sad, but like I said, like a lot of these decks like just like need the Shou Lao stuff to go away a bit, and then it might have a time to shine, because I do think ramp is actually a fairly consistent deck. Like honestly, I think it's very consistent in what it does, and it's also a very simple deck. Simple, consistent, decent amount of points, just a bit smaller than the best deck in the game right now. So can't really exist, but I really like the Dragon Lord stuff, right? Just play guy, free big guy drops from your hand. That's like spending free mana, and then play another big guy on the next turn. Simple game, simple winning, but not
Yeah.
enough points right now.
I think the thing is, like, a lot of what I like about the ramp deck is the fives, right? I like Blink, I like Legion, I like Cosmic Ghost Rider, and a lot of what I don't like about ramp is the sixes. Like, when people talk about a ramp deck, I think often they think like it's pretty six heavy. What I think has been the real secret to the ramp deck success is that it's actually only run 2 sixes the entire time. It's just been Infinite Zombie Galacta, or Zombie Galacta. Infinite Galactus first steps. There's so many prefixes and suffixes in this game that they all run together in my head. And I think that that's actually been a big part of why it's been able to be a good dynamic deck, is that a lot of its power comes from other places. And the more six heavy it becomes, the more predictable and iffy it gets. And this guy makes you six heavy and predictable. I'm not sure I like that.
That's the thing, right? Like this guy makes you six heavy in a sense. Like maybe you run a third one or something like
You
that.
probably
But
run a fourth one.
yeah, but maybe not. But like at the end of the day, you're playing a 5 that gets you a free 6 or 5. Like it's in a sense, even if you're more 6 heavy, you're also like more. I wouldn't say mana efficient, but you're like getting more free mana, because you make yourself top heavy. But the thing is, you got a 5 that you will play on 4 or 5, and then they get you a free 6. So like maybe it balances out, But I'm really talking about this right now because like the Enchantress is not relevant anymore. So like you have like sort of a bit of a slot, and then you can maybe remove another thing for one more big guy. So like it's like just changing 2 cards, not actually changing a lot.
The problem is, like, you say Enchantress isn't relevant anymore. Like, that frees up the slot Enchantress is in, but I'm not even sure it can, because it's like telling a Red Skull deck that Enchantress isn't metagame relevant anymore. They're like, yeah, but I play that for my own card, right? You play Enchantress so you can turn off your Electro sometimes. Like, if Enchantress isn't relevant anymore, that's bad for the deck. Like, it's not like I can free up that slot as easily as another deck. You know what I mean?
I actually no. This is the funny thing. I actually think it actually makes it less relevant to Enchantress your own Electro. So because Enchantressing your own Electro means you are opening up the option to play 2 cards, correct? But then if you're playing Dragon Lord, it's
you don't even have 2 cards to play.
It's 2 in 1. It's usually bigger. So like, I think maybe it's about the same. I'm just theoretically talking about it. I haven't really
What you end up missing out on is usually something like Blink Grandmaster or Dragon Lord Grandmaster. So like it's meaningful. I kind of want to talk about the general reaction to Shou Lao, because I think we can all agree the card's a little messed up, right? But I don't think it's more messed up than, I don't know, most of the really good cards from last year. Like, I think Iron Patriot, I think Sam Wilson, I think Mr. Fantastic First Steps, I think arguably Invisible Woman First Steps. We've had cards that are at least this strong, if not stronger, come out. But what's interesting about that is basically haven't had one in 6 months. So the question I want to put to you is it good when they make strong cards? Or is this a unique case where people are just mind broken by the fact that, like, they haven't had a strong card in 6 months and now they have one and they don't know how to deal with it? Like, I really wonder, because like I've been really shocked by the outpouring of emotion I've seen around this card, because I don't feel like it's strong enough to deserve that, at least in the context of other cards that we've had. But maybe it's just been so long that people aren't used to it.
So I think it's a few things. The first one is we talked about this in either the previous video or the one before that, before Shou Lao even came out. But like the thing about cards like Shou Lao, right, is like the power is face up. Like it's just very obvious in your face. Like it's like bam, big stats, big power, very scary. Tier 1 deck. Like it's in your face, right? Whereas for like things like Sam Wilson, Iron Patriot, which I think pre-nerf Sam Wilson and Iron Patriot were like more defining than Shou Lao, by the way. Especially Sam. Sam is one of the nuttiest things they printed in like the last year or something. So I think it's just because Shou Lao's power is like in your face, very face up, and then like you see the effect and the impact more clearly. Whereas for something like Sam, right, he does like probably like 10 more things than Shou Lao, but the thing is it's like all small things. So you don't really see it as obviously. So Shou Lao is like more obvious in your face. So I guess you feel it more. It's just like a psychological thing. And another thing is also I agree that like, I think it's been a while since they printed like something of this like power level, right? I personally like it when so this is one of my pictures every single time like people talk about nerfs and buffs. It's just my preference, not necessarily right or wrong, but it's either you like make everything a lot weaker or you make everything a lot stronger. I prefer personally to play if everything is good, I'd rather be playing that than like playing with everything that is like less good. Like some people just like to do the whole nerf everything to the ground thing and then you play with nothing, you play with air. But like I like to play with everything. If everything is powerful and there's multiple powerful deck/things to do, I personally prefer that because in theory powerful things means fun, right? You see flashy stuff happening. So like I would like there to be like multiple Shou Lao level relevant decks in the game. That's my preferred way of playing the game because I don't want to log in and just be like, oh, I'm gonna play all these like worst versions of decks from the past. I want to log in and be like, okay, there's 4 different fun good decks to play right now, but currently there's not really like 4. There's like Shou Lao and like stuff that beats Shou Lao. So obviously it's not the case, but I prefer more good than like everything bad.
Well, my contention is basically this. When I look at Shou Lao, I see a card that is closer to the correct power level for a card to be released at than I want to say 9 season passes from last year. 3 season passes from last year I think were better than him. Arguably 4, depending on where you think about Merlin. So they were even more powerful than he is.
I think Merlin's better, but okay, that's my...
Then it's 4, right? Then it's 4 season passes that were better than him, and then a bunch that were way worse than he is good. Like, if you think the correct amount of power for a season pass is, let's say, an 8 out of 10, in order to make sure the card is interesting and playable, something like a Weapon X or Esme Kaku, those are way bigger misses than Shou Lao. It's just the direction of a miss low means that you don't have to think about the card at all. You don't complain about a card you don't think about. So when they miss low, you simply don't notice. But Shou Lao is closer to the power level a season pass should be than most of the season passes they released last year. That is largely my contention here. I think that, for the record, my baseline for what a season pass should be is like Agamotto. That's, to me, the perfect season pass. That's like, that's sort of where I'm at. Shou Lao is closer to that than Weapon X is. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, the Agamotto comment was kind of nice as well. Like, not just from a power level perspective, but also from the game is fun this month perspective. Because like, it's like new card that is meant to be good and you can build around. That's like so Agamotto, right? Whereas for Sam is like new card that is good that 20 decks can build around. That's a bit too. That's
like
a bit
the best
too
thing
much.
at everything.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what the metagame actually is. I think people have largely started figuring out that Shou Lao functionally is a combo deck that's hard to interact with. The closest analogy for what this deck is, Invisible Woman First Steps deck when it was out here, combo deck that like you couldn't really counter, weren't really able to do things about, specifically the interaction with Shadow King, meaning that it was very able to beat your butt in if you were relying on the old style of tech cards against it. It would just kind of have more numbers than you. So it was very good against those decks. Shou Lao also quite good against Shadow King, just by virtue of splitting across multiple locations and being very good at throwing priority. All the power comes down off of him later in the game. And so that dynamic is similar. But it also reminds me of 2023 Bounce. where it's just bigger than all the mid-range decks and they can't do anything about it because of priority shenanigans. It reminds me a little bit of Hela. Like, not a lot, but a little bit. That's the sort of cohort I think people are missing that this deck falls into. What makes it different from those decks, and this is actually something it shares with Invisible Woman First Step, so what makes it different from the latter two I mentioned, is it gets to be like a Cosmo Deafening Chord deck. And outside of that, you get like either one of, like, basically you get one ongoing card that you can use to deal with the meta however you like. That can be Stardust, it can be Cosmo, it can be Mobius, it can be whatever, right? And then you get Deafening Chord. And that's what the deck gets in terms of interactive cards. It basically gets nothing other than that. That's very beatable if you just play a combo deck that goes over the top. What's really interesting here, though, is by virtue of being a Merlin deck, most of the combo decks that would naturally beat this deck's ass due to being Magic decks end up having a much worse matchup than they otherwise should. Like, it is very notable to me that the combination of Merlin and Deafening Chord allow you to have enough counterplay against Magic and onboard combo that you just aren't as unfavored as you should be. Even though I do think that largely the way to beat these decks is by doing some form of just, here's a bunch of points. We have Zombie Galacti coming up in the next topic, but like Living Tribunal, the ongoing combo deck, right? Like all of that stuff, you just like here's a million points. You can't beat me. Because what Shou Lao is fundamentally is like a pretty small combo deck with a couple of really good interactive pieces. And just build around what those allow you to do. But it's a lot harder to do than you think, because they get to play Cosmo, they get to play D-Chord, and they get to blow up your Magic. And it's like, oh, you know, that is almost basically enough.
Yeah, this Shou Lao deck in its current form is, I think it's very close to tier 0.5 per se. Like, what I mean is like you say, it has the three things, right? Or I can't remember how many things, but it has power, it has disruption, and it's consistent, right? So it kind of does the everything. Whereby like the way you usually beat like consistent powerful decks is you just go over the top of them, which is combo decks. But the problem is like this deck itself runs a natural, like the Merlin basically, a natural way to shut down
Merlin
turn
is
7,
just like
shut down turn 7, right? So it's bordering on tier 0.5 because like realistically you want to climb consistently in Marvel Snap right now. You just play some Shou Lao deck, like you cover all bases by nature, you know, and then you just try and win the mirror matches sometimes. So if that's the case, then like what's the best turn 6 combo deck, right? Because reliably winning them on turn 7 doesn't exist. So what is the best turn 6 combo deck? Is it like some tribunal,
you see the problem,
40
right?
every location thing? That sounds like, because like Tribunal can consistently win on turn 6, right? The turn 7 is for you to go like 100 or something like that, but like you don't need to do that. But whereas the turn 6 way of winning is possible, you know, with Tribunal. So I'm just thinking Tribunal. Mr. Negative also probably can win on turn 6 if you get lucky.
Those are both
That
Magic
one is a bit more.
decks.
That one is about like you need to hit perfect. So I don't really count Mr. Negative, right? Mr. Negative, you kind of need to hit perfect on turn 6 to like do the thing. So maybe just Tribunal and like a Shou Lao deck that beats Shou Lao. I guess really, honestly, this is one of those metas, but you play Shou Lao to beat Shou Lao. That's what I think.
Yeah. I think there is probably a solution here, but it is sort of very frustrating to look at this metagame and be like, this is a problem with a clear solution, but their answers are, and they aren't like great answers, but they're just good enough to make the solution a lot less clear, right? They're just good enough that you're like, I don't know if I can count on that. And I don't know if I think this is a Magic problem per se, where it's like all the decks that I would want to play are Magic decks. Is that her fault? I don't know. But it is notable to me, you know, I pitched the idea of Shou Lao just doesn't count spells anymore, right? That would take away a lot of this dynamic. It would be like, okay, Deafening Chord is out of the deck. Merlin is out of the deck. And now suddenly you are just losing to every Magic deck. Every Magic deck is now putting belt to ass on you. Like, you are not beating a turn 7 out of it. You are absolutely not doing it. Because in this analogy, Shou Lao would be the turn 6 combo deck. That's what it would be. And I think that the more time passes, the more I am convinced that's what they need to do to this card. Because it's just free rolling a little too much off of Decord and Merlin. It's getting a little bit too much free stuff off of that. Now, I realize maybe I'm missing the forest for the trees. Maybe what you got to do is just obliterate Shou Lao. But I look at this situation and I'm like, I don't even know if he's the problem here. We've had decks like this before. It's the melding of him with enough interaction to stop people from going over the top that I think is the problem. And you can solve that either by solving him or by solving the interaction. But I am starting to get a little bit more suspicious of allowing him to exist in Merlin and Decord decks for free. I do want to talk a little bit about Zombie Galacti. Zombie Galacti is a deck I've been playing a bit recently. It's really good. It's actually just straight up a legitimately powerful deck. And part of what makes it a legitimately powerful deck is it is a magic deck, but it really doesn't have to be anymore. Thanks to multiple additional new cards, Majestic Wingbeat chief among them, this is a deck that can get like, I'm going to turn my entire board into Hulks pretty reasonably. It does still want to be a magic deck. It wants to have the card draw. But I want to give some specific praise to a card that I have basically never praised in my entire life. That card is Adam Warlock. And Adam Warlock is the best card in the Zombie Galacti deck. I'm going to sit here. I will stand on that. Because you need not just your cards to be around. You need to have cards on the board that are going to transform into your Zombie Galacti stuff. So your deck is very cheap. You build your deck to be cheap. You spam the board. All your cards sort of functionally do similar things. And so you dump them on the board. You put buffs on your Maverick. You make sure he's not in the front row so he doesn't get Cosmic Ghost Ridered. You cry when he gets Deafening Corded. All of that stuff. And then you just play a Zombie Galacti as fast as you possibly can. You set up a Majestic Wingbeat. You set up a Gwenpool. Turn 5 Gwenpool Majestic Wingbeat is genuinely a deeply scary thing to see. You are probably going to get like your actual butt kicked in there. I've been very impressed with the deck. I've been very impressed with the deck. It is absolutely a 2-cube machine though. Like there's a lot of just like your opponent looks at the board and then they think about it for a second and they're just like, oh, bye. Like there is a lot of that in this deck. And I honestly, the other reason I hate Magic in the deck is because she's even more of a 2-cube machine. Because you can go into turn 7 against the Zombie Galacti deck, you are never staying. Nobody ever stays for a turn 7. It has just absolutely never happened the entire time I play the deck. And that's quite notable as well.
This kind of thing is like one of my favorite, like when I used to do those 10-hour like MMR grinds things, these the kinds of decks that I like, because you know that there's always a way to just snap them out of the game for 2 cubes, right? So like you mentioned, you just go 4+1 on turn 5. You go like Gwenpool Wingbeat on turn 5, and then like in high elo you snap after that, right? Or you snap that, and like there's no player that's gonna stay on turn 6 versus other high level players, whether you have it or not. So it's like the semi bluff that like usually works, and then you get 2 cubes. Very grindy style of play, but just wanted to mention like that's one thing you can do as well. But I guess another thing that I wanna think about also is like for these combo decks, right? Like Zombie G and also like Tribunal. I just want to know the opinion of people that like have played a lot of these decks as well. Like how often are you beating Shou Lao stuff on turn 6? Like are you consistently beating them? If you are consistently beating them, then this is the solution, right? This is also a solution, right? You don't have to.
I think it's quite close to like being that level. I actually think the deck is pretty scary.
Right. So if it's quite close to being that level, then this is a solution, right? It's an adaptation that you can have and play the game without like just wishing for nerfs, So this is just something I was thinking about.
It really wants to be a Magic deck, though. That's the one real.
Of course. But like if you just change the way the deck is played and you are fine,
yes,
then. You know what's the sick thing? If every one of these decks run a Magic, I'm not saying. Okay, so I'm actually gonna say this. Like, if every one of these decks runs Magic, what if you just cut the Magic and play it as a turn 6 deck, and then you play one other card that's super influential, but no one knows that your deck has no Magic. So your opponent is left holding like 1-cost copies of stuff that they will hopefully use against your Magic. Obviously, this is very like metagamey things, but food to think about, right? Like it's a Magic deck that never runs Magic, and your opponent never knows. So it's kind of interesting.
I want to sort of elaborate on the idea of Shou Lao as a combo deck here, because I do think that that's the easiest way to describe it. But also, what I've noticed is people are really going away from that. Like I keep seeing Shou Lao decks that are like, I'm cutting Maverick, and I look at them and I'm like, what are you doing? Why are we cutting Maverick here? Like, what is the point of this? I was talking with Iris yesterday And I was just like, I'm messing around with this Shou Lao deck that's like a Batroc Shou Lao deck. It's awesome. It's great. But like it's running Scarlet Spider instead of Maverick. And I just looked at this and was like, all right, am I stupid? Like, why am I crazy? Like, shouldn't that just always be Maverick instead of Scarlet Spider? I know there's like, oh, if you have Maverick, you need a 1-drop to play alongside. I don't care. It's a better card. Like, what are we doing? I feel like people have their priorities all backwards, and I understand. There is a meaningful downside to Maverick, and that downside is he gets Deafening Corded, right? Like, but everyone is playing Deafening Cord for value in these matchups, right? They're just playing it on the first thing they can possibly see because it gives them their proc. So if you play a Maverick on 5, it's not getting freaking Deafening Corded. And so I just like, to me, it's kind of driving me nuts that people are playing Shou Lao decks without Maverick in them. It doesn't make any sense to me because the Scarlet Spider is the one people are teching against the Stardust. You see people doing that. That doesn't work on Maverick. The same things that beat Maverick and Scarlet Spider are like exist. It would just be like things doing a bunch of points. But Maverick is just better at being a card that works with his deck. I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'll say it. I think it's arguable Maverick is the problem here. Like, I don't think when we look back on this, I think people are going to look back on this and like, give me a Hearthstone example here where it's like, oh, I cut the card that makes the deck good to run like a little bit of mirror tech. Because that happens across card games where someone was like, let me do this. And it's like, no, dude, that's the reason you're playing this deck. Like this card is messed up.
I don't have like a clear example in my head right now, but I know what you mean. It's like the engine card, right? The card that like is the whole reason why you play the deck, but you play less copies of it because you don't want to get hit by the tech card.
Yes.
It's just like, oh, the tech
It's
card
like,
is just there to
like,
hit that card.
that's
So
the
like,
deck.
if you don't even have that card, as in like the thing is that so-called card that you play less of or not even play is like probably the reason why you play the deck, you know. So you don't cut engine. Like I think when it comes to deck building, I mean Marvel Snap is just one copy of everything, so you don't have, there's no debate of like double, triple copy kind of thing. But like you in general and in card games and deck building, you even if you want to fit in tech, your number one rule is you don't cut the engine of the deck, right? You don't cut the thing that makes the deck function to begin with. Like you don't cut the gear, don't pluck out the gear that moves the entire wheel, you know. So don't do that. But yeah, no, actually I don't have much to say about Maverick, but I want to just add one like thing about Deafening Chord, which is I really feel I'm such a big fan of all these like one cost tech card style cards, you know. Like Deafening Chord is like you mentioned earlier, one very interesting thing which I think is really cool as well. These one cost cards can just be used for value. Like people will just play the card to get a proc, you know, and like these are flexible. These are things that can be flexible because it's cost 1.
Lamby and I have been having a bit of an ongoing conversation about who the Yonko of Marvel Snap are, and it's hard because, you know, the Yonko, the 4 Emperors in One Piece, are they had 20 odd years to build up. The metagame didn't shift as much, you know what I mean? I don't know who the 4 are, but I do know who Whitebeard is, or should I say was. I guess spoilers for 2012 One Piece. I'm trying to remember what Marineford was. Spoilers for 15 years ago. Whitebeard is formerly maybe the strongest man in the world who got very sick and gradually ended up giving up his life and his sort of position as at the forefront of the world in order to like bet it on the next generation. In this analogy, Whitebeard is Shang-Chi. This is the former king of the world who gave it all up to bet on the next generation, and I suppose in this analogy, Luffy is like Deafening Chord. That's like the next generation of tech. My argument is that I don't know who the Yonko are, and we're going to be working on this. We're going to be thinking about this. This is a concept that's been sort of a brainworm for us for the past few weeks, but I'm pretty sure old Whitebeard, Shang-Chi. Defining card, maybe never actually the strongest, but always in the conversation, and then very much not.
Okay, so quick one. We started having this like idea of this Yonko thing because both KM and I own this. So apparently we both own this
T-shirt.
Yes. We own the same T-shirt from Uniqlo. It's a Yonko T-shirt. It's pretty cool. We'll find a day to wear it and then do the episode or something like that. But yeah, the Shang-Chi one makes sense, right? Former king of the world's strongest man, blah blah blah, giving it up for the next generation. Luffy, like I mentioned, right? Luffy and the new generation with their one cost tech card status or something like that. Yeah, makes sense, makes sense. But I was thinking more in the direction of like the strongest actual like card, not like strongest tech card. I haven't decided who it is yet. Like there are multiple contenders, right? Like I want to say Loki, but Loki's persona probably fits like a more interesting character ish.
Loki could be Roger. Like people just hear about him now. They weren't there for that. They
No,
just hear
but
about
Loki,
him.
correct. But Loki was shown to do. He was shown like what he could do already. Roger probably was a character that's still shrouded in mystery. Maybe a future card or something like that. Maybe that's Roger. That's what
See,
I'm
I think
thinking.
what makes Shang-Chi make so much sense for this is he's stretched into so many different eras, and only recently has he sort of fallen off, right? But the entirety of the
Right.
time he was there, he was doing things, right? Loki's like Roger because he was ended prematurely. Shang just kept going, and that's Whitebeard.
Okay. Wait, but last one. If I love this topic so much because it's just fun. But like, if Whitebeard was actually just a strong card that died out, which card do you think it is? Like, let's not think about the Shang-Chi thing first. Like, if it was just a very powerful card that died off, which would you think it is? Like, maybe audience could like let us know what you think as well.
Professor X? But yeah, audience hit us up on this one. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I've been KMBest. He's been Lamby Series, and he's going to take us out.
All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.